Musharraf began after Kargil, after having his face rubbed in the heights of Kargil. He launched one of the worst attacks on Kashmir, the kind of jihadi attacks that we saw. We saw suicide bombers, Fidain attacks, all of it hitting Kashmir, where you had the body toll of over 2,000 casualties every year. And then the terror started spreading through the Indian mainland. When the Pakistan military was emboldened, when we didn't strike them after the attack on Parliament, they started spreading into Indian cities, Delhi, Jaipur, Gujarat, in Mumbai, Bengaluru, all across the mainland. And then 26/11 happened. And now, 2025, a quarter of a century later, the needle has moved decisively. All options are on the table. The armed forces are attacking Pakistan in a way that they have never struck before. The Air Force, the Army, and now even the Navy.
You know, we kept thinking, and you know, first it was the surgical strike that took place. After Uri, it was Army. Balakot was Air Force. This time it was Air Force. And we kept asking the Navy chief, ab ki baar Navy ka war? And it's actually happened. Navy ka war is big. I have Geeta Mohan, a foreign affairs editor, with me on this special broadcast. Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur stays with me. Colonel Rohit Dev with me on this big story. Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur, your military analysis on Indian Navy striking Karachi. What do you make of this, sir?
Big expansion of what's going on right now, because we are hitting the underbelly of Pakistan, especially since that's the commercial capital and the most important port of Pakistan. So, depending on, as things become clearer and what we have struck, with what we have struck, these are two different things. Things should get clearer. But the very fact that if things have happened down south in Karachi, there are a lot of attention, a lot of logistics would get transferred from Pakistan's eastern front, that is our front, towards Karachi, because that is, just as Lahore is so important, so is Karachi, because that's the door to Pakistan as far as all the supplies, the logistics, commercial shipping are concerned. The Pakistan Navy is small. We are much larger as a Navy, much more potent. So let's see how this plays out these very days, and let's hope you're able to get some more information on what exactly is going on there. On the social media, there are some shots, but we have to be careful so that we don't disseminate something which is incorrect.
We're making it very sure. All information coming in goes through a system of vetting. Navy attacking Karachi is big. I have General Atta Hasnain joining me on the broadcast. Geeta, as far as India's foreign policy is concerned, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar and had a chat with Marco Rubio, Secretary of State and NSA. What information can you add about the diplomatic efforts? Because I believe Rubio also spoke to Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif.
And look at the readout, the huge difference in the readout between what he said to External Affairs Minister Jaishankar and what he said to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif. On the one hand, extending support to India, saying that America stands with New Delhi when it comes to this fight against terrorism. But to Shehbaz Sharif, he said that, again, regretting what happened, but also said that Pakistan needs to rein in the terror industry in Pakistan. Not exactly in the words that I've put it in, but paraphrasing what exactly Marco Rubio said, that they should stop the terror factories in Pakistan. So that's America lecturing Pakistan on a day when we are seeing a massive escalation. What you just broke is very important, Gaurav, because at this point in time, everybody was talking about how is India going to retaliate. It's not about the little escalatory moves that we saw through the evening. It's now that we're talking about the real escalation. India going into Karachi, the Karachi port. That certainly is going to be massive. There is a lot of conversation and chatter. We can't confirm nor deny. There's no official confirmation on what's happening in Pakistan. But got a lot of chatter on many people within the army circles in Pakistan not happy with General Asim Munir. Is he in trouble?
Absolutely. You know, that man has taken Pakistan down a very slippery rope. And I want our viewers to know, on India Today, we said that man Asim Munir is dangerous for Pakistan. He's not good for Pakistan. He's a self-seeking jihadi general. And look at Pakistan's history. General Hasnain, before I bring in Sandeep onto this conversation, a jihadi general who, we were discussing was a combination who saw himself a little like Muhammad Ali Jinnah and saw himself as a Ziaul Haq, and a combination of Zia and Jinnah cannot be good for Pakistan. Both of them took Pakistan down a very, very slippery road. But what do you make of Karachi under attack right now by the Indian Navy, General Hasnain?
First of all, I was expecting a escalation in a different domain, and I did expect that something would happen either in the maritime domain or perhaps a maneuver on the ground, which can be either from the Pakistani side or our side, which would show intent on the ground. Now, that would be something very dangerous. So I think what India has done in terms of sort of exploiting the maritime domain, sending in, I am told, even the aircraft carrier is in that general area somewhere, and targeting Karachi. You can always pull back from this. You can pull back comparatively easily. But if you make a ground maneuver at this state time, it becomes something which is very, very difficult to control and sort of stop at any time, because it happens on a broad frontage. It happens with a great amount of depth. The Navy's comparative thing is that it's got greater flexibility in its employability. I think this is a smart thing which India has done in terms of opening up another domain and putting pressure on Pakistan. And as you are saying very correctly and identifying that there seems to be internal pressure building up on General Asim Munir himself. And we know that he's been on a slippery path for a fairly long time. You yourself have just described him very well. His character is such. He is known to be a very slippery kind of a character, and he has displayed all those qualities in the recent past. I will not be surprised in the next 1 or 2 days if you find some efforts to try and displace him.
Okay,
so be
sir, stay with me. Yes, stay with me. I have Shweta Singh joining me on this broadcast. There's more breaking news joining in as she joins us with that information. Shweta, this is something that hasn't happened since 1971. Targeting Karachi, and the Indian Navy is far, far superior than Pakistan. Shweta, get us the latest.
Gaurav, we saw how India actually retaliated after last night's attempts by Pakistan. The Karachi airport was already shut. Now was the time for the Karachi port to be shut. And Karachi port is so important for Pakistan. It is their nerve. Now, Pakistan had spoken about Kashmir being their jugular vein. Now, with Karachi being destroyed, with each and every attempt that is being made by Pakistan and how the Indian forces are shutting them down, Pakistan will realize what and where in their entire map are their veins, their jugular veins, which are being cut by the Indian Army, the Indian Navy, the Indian Air Force. With the Indian Navy now jumping into the fray, Karachi is getting to see its worst nightmare after 1971. We know for how many days Karachi kept burning during 1971, and they were thinking that this time it will just be a blockade. Well, even when we talk about a blockade, it's not just, because it completely finishes Pakistan. It is their center, which is absolutely necessary for them to stay alive. And at this point, when the economy of Pakistan has gone to the rubble, it is actually a very big question how Pakistan is going to repeat what it tried to do this evening, how it tried to actually annihilate our cities. Pakistan has to be taught a lesson, and it is not just the artillery guns at the line of control, not just the missiles that are being sent across, but the Indian Navy finally in action. Gaurav, really, you would also want to talk about the weapons that are being used, the warship that is being used, but in the interest of national security, let us just keep it at that the Indian Navy from the Arabian Sea has launched an attack on Karachi.
You know, I'm reminded of those famous words, the lines of Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, Rashtrakavi Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, सच पूछो तो शर में ही बसती है दीप्ति विनय की, संधि वचन संपूज्य उसी का जिसमें शक्ति विजय की. And this is that Shakti Vijay ki that India is clearly displaying in this combat. Sandeep, Shweta, stay with me. We will take this forward. This is peace through strength that India seeks to achieve, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And you know, when the Indian Navy joins the fray, it is as General Atta Hasnain was mentioning, that we've moved the conflict into another dimension, and this is the dimension where India has huge overmatch over Pakistan. In the maritime domain, we possibly outnumber Pakistan by 5 or 6 to 1. And that is the kind of ratios that the Indian Navy is able to bring to bear on Pakistan's jugular. As Shweta just said, it's possibly not Kashmir, but it's actually the maritime route that Pakistan is so critically dependent on for everything, for imports, for exports, for oil, energy. Everything is critically dependent on over the seas, and particularly through Karachi. And if the Indian Navy were to appear at the gates of Karachi, Pakistan would start worrying very, very greatly. And that
No, but explain this to me, Sandeep, because, you know, while Karachi burning was a reality in 1971, I'm sure Pakistani Navy planners would have learned their lessons. They would have their mines, their minesweepers. They would have laid mines. I mean, we have the MIGM, those acoustic, mines. We are just testing some of the new equipment. But Pakistan is also a very well-trained Army, Navy, and Air Force.
Yes, but when they start laying minefields outside Karachi or along the coast, Gaurav, they are denying nothing comes in either, and they're so dependent. They absolutely need the sea route to survive, because most of their energy comes from over the sea. They have a requirement of something like 500,000 barrels of oil per day, and that most of it comes over the seas, and they need an open sea for that, which is why the prospect of a maritime blockade or any strike from the sea, which will keep maritime traffic away from the North Arabian Sea, would deeply, deeply worry the generals in GHQ Rawalpindi, particularly General Asim Munir, Gaurav.
Okay. You know, we are live throughout because our armed forces are live throughout protecting our borders, and their valor has to be reported so that you know you are very well protected from that radical Islamist terror state, Pakistan. And General Hasnain, before I bring in Geeta Mohan and Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur into this conversation, I want to understand from you, Pakistan, we work on sea control. We want to dominate the seas, but Pakistan works on the sea denial concept, and that's why it's worked extensively on its submarines. It's been getting a lot of equipment from the Chinese Navy, and they've been strengthening Gwadar as a port. How concerned should we be? We are targeting Karachi, but in their submarines could be lurking somewhere in the Arabian Sea and attempt to strike us from behind. You're on mute, General.
Sorry.
Go on, sir.
Yeah, a good point you brought out, Gaurav. There's no doubt that the moment you make a maneuver of this kind, you have to guard your flanks. Any military man will tell you that the moment you forget your flanks and forget your rear, you start becoming very, very vulnerable. So here, obviously, there is a lurking threat under the sea, which is there. They have their subs very much out at the moment. They have been also, in conjunction with the PLA Navy, doing a lot of exercises in this area, right from Djibouti to Gwadar. This area of the triangle of the Northwest Indian Ocean has been under the domination of the PLA Navy and the Pakistan Navy for quite some time. So, they will try and project a lot of threats to us. But I think we are far too strong here. The PLA Navy itself doesn't have a blue water capability as such to reach out to such areas as this. The Indian Navy need not go all out to do a kind of a sea denial or carry out even an attack on Karachi Harbour, because its mere presence there, actually the threat that it causes will ensure that more merchant shipping in this area will keep away from it. Because this becomes an almost war zone. The price, the insurance prices will go up manifold. anyone who was having to bring in anything to Karachi would probably charge a package absolutely to do that. So Pakistan is not in a position to afford anything of that kind. So actually, you don't have to really physically attack it. Actually, as long as the maneuver is there, the threatened being is there, it is sufficient to keep Pakistan on tenterhooks. And Pakistan will be forced to look towards the maritime domain before it can take any decisions on the ground and in the air. And I'm sure Air Marshal Manmohan Bahadur will agree with me on that.
In fact, I wanted to come to Air Marshal Manmohan Bahadur, but Geeta has more inputs that are coming in. Air Marshal, give me a moment as I bring in Geeta Mohan on the war on the diplomatic front, because that again is an area where, from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to National Security Advisor Ajit Doval to External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar, India is on a very strong footing, continuously engaging partners, telling them about Pakistan's radical Islamist terror state. So how is the diplomatic war, how is the maneuvering there, Geeta?
Well, Gaurav, the channels of communication have opened up. They were open last time around also when India decided to attack and target the terror hubs within the 9 terror targets within Pakistani territory and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. For the first time entering the Punjab, they informed partner countries, key allies like the United States of America, the UK, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the UAE. This time around, we know that the conversations have already opened up with the United States of America. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has his own line of communication other than Dr. Jaishankar, where he speaks with his, not just his counterparts, but with leadership from various countries, particularly the Gulf states, keeping them informed. They are important allies and partners. Remember, the massive shift that we've seen in diplomacy, in geopolitics, when there was a time Gulf states, West Asia, would not side with India, would not support India on anything to do with Pakistan, particularly Kashmir. But this time around, you've seen a massive change. Not only have they come out in support, they've been constantly in touch. They speak of de-escalation, but raise concerns with regards to terrorism. That in itself is a huge shift. So yes, communications have opened up, but Gaurav, the most important bit, Asim Munir carrying out this operation just a day before Pakistan goes to IMF. I mean, what is the message here? What is the man trying to do? It's almost like a death wish. They're going into a meeting with IMF, and just a day before, this is what Asim Munir does.
That's why Geeta Mohan is the best foreign affairs correspondent, because she gets you those amazing insights into how Pakistan is digging its grave. And, Sandeep, there's an old saying that stop digging if you're digging yourself when you're in a ditch. Pakistan's just digging itself deeper in the ditch. Good for us, bad for them. But Sandeep, the targeting of Karachi, the operations in Lahore, the blast in Peshawar, it would seem Pakistan is actually facing offensive at multiple fronts, on multiple fronts.
Strategic encirclement of Pakistan, Gaurav, and in a way that we have not seen in several years. Pakistan's free pass that it had for so long, for 25 years, it's had a free run with terror attacks across the length and breadth of India. And of course, starting from 26/11 to those 26 tourists that they murdered brutally in Pahalgam. It's now time to pay the bills, Gaurav. And this is exactly what's been happening over the last 48 hours. Pakistan and its terror machinery, its Pakistan military and the jihadi complex that the military has nurtured for over 4 decades is now realizing that, it cannot have a free pass any longer with the kind of attacks that it's been carrying out in the past. There will be consequences, Gaurav. There will be consequences, and you are now witnessing the full impact of those consequences right now. General Asim Munir and his generals are sitting inside GHQ Rawalpindi and watching with great dismay about the kind of situation that they've brought Pakistan into. And the last time this happened, Kargil, was in 1999. You know what happened in Pakistan? There was a coup.
There was a coup.
He took over forcibly. When General Musharraf was cornered, he took over. Will Asim Munir do the same? Will he actually overthrow the civilian administration and take over the reins of power? Or will some other ambitious general who's waiting in the wings, an ambitious corps commander, take charge,
commander, yeah.
and unseat Asim Munir. It's an extremely unpredictable country that we're dealing with.
When your adversary is cornered, he's also the most dangerous because he could do something irrational. Air Marshal Bahadur, you being an aviator and you being in the Air Force, and Air Force has a bird's eye view of the situation. Give us a 360-degree perspective of what Pakistan has been through in the past, not even 12 hours, in the past 6 hours. The fact that there's been a blast in Peshawar, Lahore has been targeted, all their attempts to target India across the spectrum of the India-Pakistan border, that has failed. Now Karachi has been targeted. What would General Asim Munir do? Would he back down, or would he launch even a fiercer attack now?
He has his supporters. It's not that he has run out of ammunition. What he would be seeing on his board or on his computer is that he is cornered now from the south and on his eastern flank. Okay, he has reserves right now. His army has not moved in as such or moved anywhere.
Yes.
So to think that his with his back to the wall, not exactly, but that's where, as I said, the diplomatic pressures will start coming on, or internal pressures will start coming on. He has to call it a day at some point of time. The point is, when he calls it a day, what is it that we would get? What sort of assurance, what sort of reliability in what comes to us? Because remember, this is something that he has started.
Yes.
But it's not that it will stop when he says stop. So we've got to be very clear. What is it that, having that now that we are in it, what is our aim, a political aim that should be there at this stage? Because with having the upper hand right now, well, we've got our assets, we've got the cards, as President Trump says, we hold the cards. So we need to play our cards very carefully right now to make sure that we, at the end of the day, we get, after having lost people, after having lost civilians, our infrastructure also, and the fact that we lost in Pahalgam, and we had an attack in Pahalgam, which struck at the basic ethos of our society, a multi-religious, multicultural society that we have.
Yes.
We cannot afford to let this continue. So I think we will weigh our cards and then
when you talk about principles of war, General Hasnain, there is an aim and there is maintenance of aim. What's our aim? What would be the maintenance of our aim, General Hasnain? Point one. Point two, as far as Pakistan is concerned, what would Pakistan be doing? What would the Pakistan Army Chief be doing right now in your appreciation? As we look at these images, oh my God, watch those images of a total blackout all along all those multiple cities in our country, in all the border areas. Look at those images. In Samba, of course, you have some light that's still on. Pathankot, absolutely dark. Amritsar, absolutely dark. Gurdaspur, virtually dark. Akhnur is dark. Jaisalmer is dark. The situation remains tense, ladies and gentlemen. There is clear and present danger because, General Hasnain, a cornered adversary may not be a rational adversary. Would he scale up? Can he escalate, General Hasnain?
Good, Gaurav, very good questions. Let me start by, first of all, observing that your photographs of all the blackouts, this is after 1971. The first time after 54 years that we are looking at blackouts. And I'm surprised actually how effective the blackouts are. You know, our civil defense system, lots of people were questioning our civil defense system because it's not been activated for fairly long. But you have got a whole disaster management system, which I look after myself. And riding on top of the disaster management system is the civil defense system today, which is gaining efficiency by the day. And you can see it right on your screens out here. But coming to your specific question on selection and maintenance of aim, which is essential, the first principle of war. Now, in this case, I think the manner in which India has launched its operations, the aim at this particular time will be to continue to maintain relentless pressure on Pakistan to prevent it from undertaking any further major operations against us. And what is happening at the moment are small, sporadic forays which are taking place towards the border. There is no major attack as such. We have negated and neutralized them all. But this pressure must be maintained on them. The pressure with the maneuver we are making from the maritime domain is again one other prong to maintain that pressure on them. So far, we have moved nothing on the ground. If that also happens, it will be another screw which will be turned. So what is important at this particular stage is to continue to turn the screws. And with each turn of the screw, the pressure must build up on them. So that relentlessly at the end of it, he has to hold back. He has to de-escalate completely in this particular case. Pakistan would be at this time particularly looking for the aim to withstand that pressure.
Okay.
And to hit back India in such a manner that it does not escalate, but at the same time forces India to rethink its strategy. Considering all things at the moment, the Indian strategy of maintaining relentless pressure appears to be the one which will more likely succeed at this point in time.
You know why? You're making very pertinent points, and all of us would really want to benefit so much more. It's right now 12:40 at night. If you look at what happened over the past 2 days, between 1 o'clock and 1:30 was when the Pakistanis attempted to strike us yesterday, and it was between 1:05 and 1:35 when we hit 9 terror bases day before yesterday. And oh my God, striking Muridke and Bahawalpur and Sialkot and striking at the heart of Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror was such a huge signal that was sent out. The ramifications, the implications, Pakistan's attempted strike back, and the fact that Navy has been used right now. This truly, Sandeep, is MDO. It's a multi-domain operation that is happening on land, in the air, sea, perhaps sub-sea, perhaps even cyber, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. This is unprecedented. The level of pressure that, as General Hasnain mentioned, that those screws are being tightened. They're being turned on to Pakistan in a way that we haven't seen possibly since 1971. This kind of unbearable pressure that's being brought to bear on Pakistan to ensure that it doesn't escalate further. And this is the Indian government telling Pakistan that your days of unrestricted terror attacks and, this jihadi complex that you have nurtured over there, and of course, the unpredictable General Asim Munir, who thinks that he can get away with murdering Indian civilians in Jammu and Kashmir, the days of all of that have come to an end, Gaurav. And this is possibly one of the biggest red letter days in the 21st century, as far as we are looking at the way India has tackled security challenges on the border, especially with Pakistan. 25 years of state-sponsored Pakistan terror from Pakistan is possibly has reached its high mark, Gaurav. And I'm using the words high mark because that is an exercise that Pakistan conducts every year. And they have possibly reached the high mark. They have to figure out a new strategy because this old system of bleeding us with the so-called 1,000 cuts isn't working anymore. All of those 1,000 cuts today are being inflicted on the state of Pakistan itself.
The military jihad complex of Pakistan. Stay with me. And Geeta, very important point coming in. The United States has supported direct dialogue between India and Pakistan and encourages both India and Pakistan to improve communication. It's a big statement being made by the United States of America. And Geeta will tell us beyond the diplomaties what is happening, but let's listen in to the voices that are coming in from the United States of America.
This morning, Secretary Rubio spoke with Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif and Indian External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar. In both calls, the Secretary emphasized the need for immediate de-escalation and called for an end to the violence. He expressed U.S. support for direct dialogue between India and Pakistan and encouraged continued efforts to improve communications.
Okay, Geeta, India's diplomatic assault. And I'm using that word assault because Dr. S. Jaishankar is relentless in exposing Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. He's also virtually relentless when countries at times say both India and Pakistan should remain engaged, because he says a victim of terror and a perpetrator of terror cannot be equated and cannot be on the same page. But give us more about India's diplomatic assault that is taking place on Pakistan's military jihad complex.
Well, the Indian side was very clear. After the Pahalgam terror attack, the message to the world, and even now, Gaurav, when they're saying de-escalate, open communication lines, the concern that they're expressing, India is very clear. India's message is that we are not the ones who are escalating. It's Pakistan. Look at what Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary of India, in the briefing today, he said. He said, India, it was not Pakistan reacting to India, it was India reacting to Pakistani action. The Pahalgam terror attack was the reason why India carried out the attacks within Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, not the other way around. And so Pakistan had no right to retaliate. It was a retaliatory action. They waited 2 weeks to see if Pakistan is going to take some action against those terror hubs or not. And after they didn't, they informed the international community that India is going to go in. And that's the message that India is sending out to the world, particularly to partners like the United States of America, that if you want to really send out a message, it's not about communication lines or de-escalation. It's about telling Pakistan to rein in the terror factories, asking them to stop supporting terrorism. And that certainly will lead to de-escalation. That is an automatic de-escalatory move. So that's the message that India has been carrying out to various countries and the international community, including the United Nations Security Council, where the foreign envoys over here, based in New Delhi, representing United Nations Security Council permanent and non-permanent members, were called in. And this again was the message that was sent out to them. At the UNSC, Pakistan called for a meeting, being a non-permanent member, found no support, absolutely isolated. And again, asking India not to preach was a great move, not just when it comes to Pakistan, but when it comes to India's decisions. Today, we have the Russian S-400s, Gaurav, that saved India in many ways than one, against the Chinese weapons systems that Pakistan has.
Stay with me. Very significant points you're making there. But you know the point, General Hasnain, that Geeta was just making. One day before Pakistan is to go to the International Monetary Fund, Pakistan has no money. It cannot survive if it doesn't get IMF bailout. One day before that, Pakistan launches this big package of drone strikes, missile strikes at not one, not two, not three, 15 locations across India. It attempts and fails. And then it tries again, and there are reports it's lost 3 fighter planes, it's lost its airborne early warning command and control system, and there are reports that Karachi is in the line of fire and Karachi is being blockaded. What do you make of Asim Munir's mindset or his survivability in Pakistan? Hasnain, can you hear me, sir? Okay, give me a moment as I try and reestablish that link with General Hasnain in a moment. But Sandeep, I want you to take that question. Just before going to IMF, Pakistan does what it's done. How will it get the next bailout? Unless, of course, Pakistan thinks that China may bail them out, even if IMF doesn't. China has been rather stingy with giving money now, especially at a time when Chinese civilians are being killed in Pakistan.
Absolutely, Gaurav. China has been extremely stingy with Pakistan when it comes to giving out money. The IMF is literally Pakistan's only hope for a lifeline. And then the questions that would be asked, Gaurav, is that what is that money going towards? Is it going to benefit the people of Pakistan, or is it going to be used by Pakistan's military to buy more weapons for itself to use against its neighbors? So that's the big question. I mean, will the IMF allow money to be sent to Pakistan at a time when it is increasing its defense budget? And we know how the IMF looks at loans that it gives nations, like Pakistan, they would demand some accountability for the way that money is being spent. And clearly with Pakistan, it is one big black hole.
Okay.
And that black hole, it usually ends up in the coffers of GHQ Rawalpindi, and it buys them the kind of drones and the air defense missiles and the fighter jets that we were talking about all day today, Gaurav, at the expense of the people of Pakistan who don't even have food or tea to drink, Gaurav. That's how bad the situation is. At a time when the Pakistan military is busy enriching itself, the people of Pakistan are suffering.
More breaking news coming in. Multiple attacks on Pakistan Army in Balochistan. Even as we speak, Balochistan is Pakistan Army's Achilles heel, and that is now being pressed. A series of coordinated attacks are taking place in Quetta, the capital of Balochistan, again a corps headquarters, and there have been multiple explosions and heavy gunfire across Quetta. In the first instance, we are told Baloch freedom fighters have launched an attack on the headquarters of the Frontier Corps, the FC, in Balochistan. Witnesses are now reporting multiple loud explosions that are taking place and intense gunfire between these Baloch freedom fighters and security personnel, whose morale incidentally is very, very down, and I'll get you some more information in that in just a moment. There's a second attack that is taking place even as we speak, and that's being reported from the Captain Safar Khan checkpoint that is taking place on the Kambarni Road. It is in the Jungle Bagh area in Balochistan, and information that we are getting, two very powerful explosions have been heard in Balochistan, in this region. There's been another incident, and this time it's in the Hazara town. It's the Karni Road area in Hazara town that's been targeted. The exact nature of this attack, and God forbid, casualties, because casualties are always painful. Even if it's Pakistan Army casualties are painful. But we're also being told that Baloch freedom fighters are targeting the anti-narcotics force camp, and this is in Arif Gali. This is in the vicinity of the Borma Hotel. Very specific details we are getting here, what is happening as details of these assaults emerge in Quetta and around Quetta in Balochistan. So earlier authorities have confirmed that one person was injured. Now we are being told that 3 others have been injured in another explosion that's taking place on Spinney Road. And this is just the first bit of information that is coming in. And when you look at Pakistan's map, I will just put out Pakistan's map in just a moment. So there's been a blast in Peshawar. So Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, there is an issue. Balochistan, which is Pakistan's Achilles heel, you've just heard of multiple blasts and fights that are happening between Baloch freedom fighters and the Pakistani security forces, whose morale is down. If you talked about Sindh, Karachi has just been targeted in Pakistan's Punjab province, which is the heart of Pakistan, or what the well-heeled in Pakistan called proper Pakistan. Even in proper Pakistan, Muridke has been targeted, Bahawalpur has been targeted, Lahore has been targeted, and AWACS has been down over proper Pakistan. So the situation is extremely, extremely grim. Geeta Mohan, I want to come to you to understand, Geeta. If you look at this bigger picture, before I bring in Sandeep and before I bring in Air Marshal Manmohan Bahadur, Geeta, every part of Pakistan seems to be in jelly state.
Well, absolutely. What is happening in Balochistan started in the morning when an army convoy was attacked by the Baloch Liberation Army. And that certainly was signaling that the